morning, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, whatever coast you are on. We are here live and direct. You're on with your girl, Shirley Nichols, with Mortgage Money with Shirley. We are on episode 23 this Friday, y'all. And let me tell you, it's a good one. It's a good one. It is a good one. So tune in, grab your friends, family, co-workers, neighbors, enemies. We take them all. Just tune in, grab them, and let's get started, y'all. We're on episode 23, and it's rate and term or cash out, right? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. Rate and term or cash out. And of course, we're talking about refinances because that has been surging and trending. And oh my gosh, the interest rates are up, the costs are up, but are we still refinancing or are we just purchasing, buying property? So we're going to talk about that today in today's episode 23. And again, you're on with Mortgage Money with Shirley. You can subscribe to my podcast on YouTube. It's under Shirley Nichols. Again, on my YouTube channel, Shirley Nichols is where you'll find all of my episodes for Mortgage Money with Shirley. And also, you can tune in on Spotify, Instagram. My IG is Mortgage Money with Shirley. You can tune in and follow me on there for more mortgage tips and tools. But I would like to share with you all of this 28 years worth of experience in this mortgage business. I am a mortgage broker with Clear Sky Mortgage and Realty. My NMLS number, I always forget to say this, but I should be saying this. That NMLS number, y'all, it is how you know I'm certified to be doing what I'm doing. I'm licensed to be doing what I'm doing and bringing you all this information. My NMLS number is 105989, 105989. You don't have to worry about that, but what you should be worried about, what number you should be worried about is my cell phone number. And I'll give that to you after the show because, again, I know a lot of you all sometimes don't want to necessarily leave the comments on the Facebook page because we are live on my Facebook page right now. Unless if you don't see like the little red dot in the corner, that would indicate that I'm live right now on Facebook. You can always catch the replay. My Facebook page, it is live on Shirley Nichols, my Facebook page, or my business Facebook page is Mortgage Money with Shirley. So again, you can find me everywhere or catch the replay. But I tell you, these mortgage tips and tools will take you further than what any banker is going to tell you when you can't get a hold of them at 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, my cell phone number, that cell phone stays on 24 hours. So if you have a question, comment, or concern and you don't want to leave it on Facebook or you don't want to direct message me, you can text me the question or concern and we can talk about it. Okay, so I hope you all are having a great Friday. Again, we're going to jump into episode 23, rate and term or cash out refinance. So I often still get this question. I mean, it's just been an ongoing question that I have, had asked to me 28 years in the making, and it'll last another 28 years, I'm sure. That question of, Shirley, should I refinance? I just bought my house last year, or I just bought my house 10 years ago, and I've never refinanced. Should I refinance? Now, all of you all know, if you've watched the previous podcast, I am a champion of the refinance if there's equity and a purpose. If there's equity and a purpose, perhaps refinancing is your option. And the reason why I say that is because borrowing against your home, against your property, is cheaper than going to get an American Express card, going to get a Visa card, going to get a signature loan, going to get a hard money loan, going to get one of those pay now, pay later, what is it called, those little cash money places? Yeah, okay? All of that is just kind of sort of not the way to go, in my opinion, if there's large projects that you want to pursue. For instance, large projects. I want to put another down payment on a property. I want to expand my real estate portfolio. So here I have one property that has amassed all this equity, and I want to go purchase another property. Use this property that you already, the existing property, and use some of this equity and put towards a new property. Nothing wrong with that. Oftentimes we hear clients say, oh my gosh, I've got this property and I want to expand, but I don't have the resources. Yes, you do. You have an existing property that you can borrow from and use that money, put towards your down payment and your closing costs, right? And then you can buy another property, right? So now you got two properties. You're expanding your real estate portfolio. Just like that. Just like that. So when I say to use your property, the equity in that property, because you're actually using your money and you're going to pay yourself back, right? Because this existing property is still going to appreciate in value. And then you've bought a new property. So you've invested into a new property, invested into yourself. So again, it's your money, right? So again, I am a huge champion of the refinance market only because when you're in pursuit of large projects like a house, right? Those are things that you want to use. Or if you're trying to do a consolidation loan. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about this episode topic, rate and term or consolidate or cash out. Now, if you are trying to consolidate your bills, so maybe over the last 2 years, I don't know, you went through the pandemic crisis and you ran up all your debt, all your credit cards, right? Maybe you were living off your credit cards. That is a true scenario, guys. That is a true example of a couple of clients that went through this whole pandemic crisis, right? They lost their job early on, but prior to losing their job, they wanted to refinance because they had all this debt, right? So then all these credit cards just kept piling up. And there was talk around their company that they would be getting laid off or they were losing their job. So they refinanced immediately, right? To consolidate all these credit cards. So when you're consolidating credit card debt, that is a cash out refinance. Okay. So I often encourage, if you're looking at 10 credit cards, right? You've got Macy's, you've got Nordstrom's, you've got Visa, American Express, MasterCard. You've got 10 credit cards and they're all over, let's call it 19% interest. And they're just piling up. At 19% interest, guys, consolidate. Put them all together, do a cash out refinance and pay them off. Not at 19%, but during the pandemic, you could have paid it off at maybe 2 3/4, 2.75, 3% interest, right? You could have during the pandemic. Now we're outside of this low interest rate market and now the rates are a little higher. But guess what? Interest rates are higher than the 3% right now. However, they're still lower than the 19% average on these credit cards. So why not take advantage of this equity, right? And that's why I say I'm a champion of refinancing when there's a purpose and the purpose makes sense because you've got a slew of equity over here in this existing property and then you've got a slew of debt, right? So the debt that's at 19%, combine them, consolidate them, get a cash out refinance and pay them off under 19%. That is what? Tax deductible over here. Yeah. When you borrow against the property, when you use your equity wisely and you do a cash out refinance, this cash out loan that you've just refinanced for your property is tax deductible. What'd you say, Shirley? Tax deductible. This interest is tax deductible on your taxes. Yeah, it is. So again, if you're getting an average of 19% on all these credit cards over here, right? Why not consolidate, do a cash out refinance, pay them off at maybe 5 3/4, 5.75 is about the average, rate on a cash out, depending on what your FICO score is, depending on how much equity you have. So just know in today's market, interest rates have gone up, yes, but depending on what your purpose of refinancing is for, you might think about getting a refinance if you have a slew of debt, right? Like I said, averaging 19% on each card, then pay it off. And I mentioned the rate was about 5.75 on a 30-year fixed. given you have a FICO score over a 680, and I know some of you all are thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have a credit score over 680. I just went through the pandemic. Okay, listen. You don't have to have a 680. But what I want to tell you is this: if you want your interest rate under 6%, right, on a cash out refinance, then you need a credit score of a 680, at least a 680. Now, maybe we've got some lenders out there, I haven't really checked, but maybe there's some lenders out there that are offering under 6% for, a 620 or a 640 credit score, maybe. However, the higher your score, and this market, the higher your score is the best way to stay under 6%, especially if you want to do a cash out refinance, okay? And also depending on how much equity, or what we call loan to value, how much equity you have against the money you want to borrow, that ratio will determine pretty much what your interest rate will look like. But guess what? It certainly beats the 19% that you're at on these credit cards, right? Who wants to do 19% when you can do under 6% and get a tax write-off? So this is what I mean, folks, about refinancing on a cash out. Get your debt, consolidate these bills, put them over here on the equity that you have amassed and you're really paying yourself. Put them over there instead of paying American Express, instead of paying Citibank or Wells Fargo, whoever your Wells Fargo or your MasterCard or Visa is financed through. Perhaps start paying yourself versus these credit card companies. I mean, it's genius. And if you want to buy a house, use the equity on the pre-existing house that you have. Okay. Instead of, I know I've talked about recently in previous podcasts, when you're buying a house, look into using your 401k or your retirement plan with your company, get a hardship loan from them, or withdraw from your 401k. I often talk about that retirement plan when you're with a company that's putting into that retirement plan with you. I often talk about use those funds to buy a house, but I'm speaking more specifically about when you're buying your first home or when you're buying a property and maybe you have, maybe you own one home and you sold it and then you went to an apartment, lived there, whatever, and now you're entering back into the home owner market, right? The home buyer market. So maybe you need to use your 401k funds to get started because you don't have a pre-existing home. But when you have a pre-existing home, don't worry so much about the retirement plan, the 401k. Don't worry so much about withdrawing money from that plan. Withdraw it from your existing home, right? Just get a cash out refinance and use those funds to buy that next property. Again, that's why I'm talking to you all about rate and term or cash out refinances. These cash out refinances, guys, it's huge. That's why mortgage lenders are still in business. And they will be in business for years because even though rates go up, and guys, mind you, newsflash, this is not the first time interest rates have gone up. No. And I will assure you, as sure as I'm sitting here, for the last 28 years in this business, the interest rates will come down. I'll say it again. There's nothing wrong with refinancing with a purpose in mind, even when the interest rates are a little higher, because what goes up must come down, and the rates will come down. They really will, guys. Now, surely, when will the interest rates come down? I don't know. But I guarantee somewhere about 18 to 24 months, interest rates will be back under that 6%, back under that 5%, back under that 4%. But what the government is trying to do, what Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank, is trying to do, good old Jerome said, hey, I really don't want this inflation, right? So I'm going to force a recession. What'd you say, Shirley? Yeah, he just may be forcing a recession to keep the economy from going into a state of panic where we saw in 2008 in the market crash, right? Is the market going to crash, Shirley? No. But interest rates must go up to kind of slow and even out the economy, right? When the economy starts booming and booming and booming, it tries to slow it down a little bit, right? So we don't end up in inflation where the dollar is not worth a whole lot. That's what happens when the economy is spinning and spinning and it's going so fast, right? So we got to try to slow it down. Now, I know you're thinking, but weren't we just slowed down for 2 years in this pandemic? Yes. But what happened to the job market? And believe it or not, the job market, the unemployment has a lot to do with interest rates in the housing market. The housing market, I've talked before about this. The housing market is what keeps this economy, believe it or not. It's the housing market, the real estate market that keeps the economy twirling and moving, right? And a lot of people think, well, no, it's the job sector. Well, they kind of go hand in hand. When the unemployment is up, interest rates really are a little bit lower. Kind of weird, huh? You would think that if unemployment is up, well, and that's how it should be. If unemployment is up, interest rates really do start going down. But now what's happening in the job market is all these jobs are available and nobody wants to work. So here we have a shift. Now the interest rates have to go up to get the economy to stable out, to calm down, get people back at work, and that you're not getting, an increase of extra expenditures like groceries and gas, and we can't control that stuff because there's a whole Ukraine and Russia war out there, right? So things happen. And the reason why I'm bringing up all this stuff, guys, is things happen in the world, in the economy. But if you notice, this too shall pass, right? Sort of like this whole COVID business. 2 years, and we're starting to come out of it. It will pass. Just like if you think interest rates are high. And I've told you before, I think interest rates are probably where they should be. Why? Because when I started this business, I said this over and over in my podcast. I was selling money at 12, 13, 14. We were selling money in the double digits, guys. So with the interest rates being around 5.5, 5.25, somewhere in there, interest rates are really probably right where they should be so that the economy can stable out. Now, let's go back to the topic, cash out refinances or rate and term. So we talked about cash out refinances, right? So you're going to use your cash out refinance for a purpose, buying another home, paying off debt, those are the big to-dos when you want to look at refinancing. Or if, let's say, some home improvement and you're adding a room or you're expanding your square footage, those are the things that you want to use this existing home for when you're doing a cash out refinance. I want to build a jacuzzi and a pool and a whole oasis in my backyard. Great. And whatever that cost is, and then you want to update the kitchen and the bathroom. These are things that would add value to the property. Updated kitchen, a room addition, a swimming pool, jacuzzi in the backyard. That square footage that you're adding on to your property, that's what's bringing value. So once again, why not use what you have, your existing home, and do a cash out refinance? And I'll say this again. Shirley, oh my gosh, the rates are 6% on the cash out. Not quite 6%. However, it is tax deductible and still cheaper than what that swimming pool company is going to charge you to use their money, right? Why not use your money from the existing property that you have? So talk to me, guys. Call me with your questions, concerns. I'm here to tell you, cash out refinances oftentimes are cheaper interest and tax deductible versus someone else's money, okay? So we talked about the cash out side. Now let's talk about the rate and term. I get those questions too. Rate and term, what does that mean, Shirley? So I have an existing property with an existing mortgage, and that mortgage is at 4%, okay? I have a 4% 30-year fixed on my property right now. What do you think, Shirley? Should I do a rate and term? Because I don't have any other debt. I'm not looking to expand my house. I'm not looking to take money out and buy another property. I just simply want to reduce this interest rate and reduce my payment on this mortgage. So that's the question, right? And like I said, just had this question the other day. So we did a whole workup, right? By the way, when you call me, it's free. What'd you say, Shirley? It's free to talk to me. Seriously. So I educate and talk about all different kinds of options and things for my clients for free. Okay? That's it. That's how we do it. And then when we close a loan and all that kind of stuff comes later, and I get paid from the company, whatever. So now listen, back to the question that I just was asked. Shirley, I have a 4% 30-year fixed on my existing mortgage. Should I do a rate and term? I heard you say that interest rates are, almost 6%. Should I refinance this 4% on a rate and term? I don't want any cash, just on a rate and term. And so we'll do a workup. In this client's example, what they failed to say was, I have a 4% interest rate on an FHA deal, right? Now, why do you bring that up, Shirley? Because FHA, no matter when you did it, what you do, how much equity you have, you're always going to pay PMI. What? You're always going to pay PMI. Private mortgage insurance, okay? These FHA loans are backed by the government, and they need to ensure that you're going to pay that mortgage and not walk away from this house. And in the event that you walk away from this house or we have to foreclose, guess what? The government's going to get their money because they placed this hefty insurance on you called PMI, private mortgage insurance. They've placed that payment on you inclusive of your mortgage, right? So again, in this client's example, they called in, hello, Shirley, should I refinance and do a rate and term on this 4%? And I said, okay, let's talk about it. And in our discussion, I said, is this an FHA, VA, government loan, or a conventional? And they said, let me think about it. And I said, well, do you pay PMI? Because I'm looking at the value, right? And she has well over 20% worth of equity, right? But somewhere in the food chain, she forgot whether she had a government FHA loan or a conventional loan. So we got to talking and I said, well, let me just look it up. Yeah, I can look it up. Don't worry, I got you. Give me your address and your name. I can look it up. I'll let you know what kind of loan you have, homeowner. So she goes, I think it's an FHA. Do you pay PMI? Yeah. Well, let's see. I look it up. It's an FHA. So the question is, should I refinance this 4% FHA deal? And now your new rate on a conventional is going to be 5.25%. Should I take 4% or 5.25%? I know the 5.25% is higher. However, check this out. We go through the numbers, right? We start crunching out the numbers. And mind you, like I said, she has a slew of equity, well over 20%. We're talking close to like 40% worth of equity. So I said to her, your loan to value, the amount of money that you need or the amount of money that you're going to borrow against the value is at 60% because she has 40% worth of equity. So this 60% loan to value can get you a rate of almost a little bit under 5.25% on a 30-year fixed rate and term. And then because the balance is a little bit over $450, your payment actually is a little bit lower than what you currently have. Now, how does that work, Shirley? What do you really mean? So here's the deal. We worked out the numbers. Her 4%, her payment at 4% that included that PMI was like $3,000, right? We did the math and we compared it to a 5.25% 30-year fixed. And without that PMI, her $3,000 payment shrunk to $2,800. What'd you say, Shirley? $2,800. She's going to save $200. Even though the rate went up, her payment went down because we got rid of the private mortgage insurance. See how that works? So again, that type of financing, that type of refinancing is just simply a rate and term. And you're thinking, the mindset is when I do a rate and term, I'm going to lower the interest rate, lower my payment. However, in this particular case, sometimes it's not lowering the interest rate as much as lowering the payment because it depends on what you're paying. Are you paying PMI? And mind you, you don't have to be paying PMI only with an FHA. You could also have bought your home at 95% loan to value or 85% or 90%, which means you put either 5 or 10 or 15% down. You didn't put 20% down and you've got a conventional loan. You too are paying PMI. Unless you were one of those clients that said, I'll take the much higher interest rate and eliminate that PMI. There are clients out there that do that every day. Nothing wrong with that. However, if you're the standard, regular, routine, conventional that's not at 80% or lower on your loan to value, you're paying PMI. So no matter what your interest rate is, you're paying PMI. And that PMI, that private mortgage insurance does nothing for you, homeowner. It does everything for the lender or the government, right? Because they're insuring to make sure that if you walk away from this property, gosh forbid we foreclose, we're going to be indemnified, right? That's what that's what the term insurance means. It means you're going to be indemnified or made whole or made back again from your original state, right? So they don't lose anything. So the insurance doesn't protect you, homeowner, when you're paying private mortgage insurance. News flash, PMI does nothing for the homeowner, but it does everything for the lender, right? They're indemnifying themselves to make sure that you don't walk away from the property and they walk away empty-handed, right? So again, if you're paying PMI and your interest rate is under 5%, woo! Who cares? Refinance, refinance, refinance. And again, guys, I started this whole segment off with refinancing for a purpose, right? Even if it's rate and term. I started off talking about cash out refinances with a purpose, but I'm also going to talk about rate and term with a purpose, okay? I'm so sorry that your interest rate is under 5-6% and you're paying PMI. Now's the time. Refinance it, get out of the PMI and get into a somewhat higher rate, but your payment possibly could go down because you're no longer paying PMI. And even to my homeowners who say, well, if I get rid of the PMI, my payment, because the rate went up, the payment's going to stay the same. Yeah, in some cases, that is the case. In some cases, because your rate may have been so low and you're paying PMI, but when you refinance, the interest rate is a little higher, but no PMI, your payments might be the same, right? And so then I have that homeowner who says, well, if my payment's going to be the same, but my interest rate is higher, why should I refinance? Because how many homeowners out there want to keep paying PMI? How many homeowners out there want to keep paying the lender money to insure your money, right? Because this is your home, this is your equity, this is your home. So you're paying the lender to keep your home when you're paying insurance, PMI specifically, right? So even if your payment is the same, right? Even if after you decide that, yeah, I'm going to do this rate and term, and I get it, Shirley, my rate and term, my existing mortgage is at 3%, and you're going to put me into this 5.5%, 5.25% rate. I get it. My payment's going to stay the same. But guess what? What did I say earlier in this episode? Interest is tax deductible. So it's almost like a win-win. Think about it, right? You do a rate and term refinance, right? And even if your rate goes up a tick, right? Your rate goes up just a smidgen, right? You can write it off on next year's tax returns. And I know some of you might want to get a little bit of more refund next year, right? So we're in 2022. When you go to file your taxes in 2023, you can write off whatever interest you've used in 2022, even if it goes up from the 3% that you were at and it goes to 5.25%, you've got a larger write-off, which could equate to more refund next year. So it's still a win-win, folks. What I'm saying is take advantage of today's market if you want to refinance. Take advantage of today's market if you want to buy a new property, right? There's means to doing everything. And what I know for sure is that the mortgage business, the housing business is cyclical. It turns, it goes in cycles, right? It goes in cycles. And as sure as they come up with the interest rates and costs, they will come down. Now, you might have to hang on for about 18 to 24 months with these new rates. And FYI, heads up, newsflash, the Fed's good old Jerome Powell has already slated that rates will go up in June, almost by a half. What'd you say, Shirley? Yes, I do a lot of reading with our mortgage periodicals and publications that are sent to me. I do a lot of reading about what's trending, what's going on, and blah, 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 blah. So I do those fact checks. And yes, the Feds, but they said this in March. They said that they would be raising rates 5 times this year. Okay? So June, look out. Interest rates will go up by about a half is what their prediction is, right? So again, all this talk about force placing us into a recession and all that kind of stuff. But again, those things shall pass, right? But in the meantime, do your own fact checking. Give me a phone call and let's talk and discuss your options. What really might make sense? Okay. I know, like I said, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, should I be refinancing or buying, or should I just buy and not refinance? You've got to check the facts and do your homework. Options, numbers, crunch them, right? So again, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in today. My phone number, as promised, if you don't want to leave your comments here on the Facebook page or anywhere else in my DMs or whatever, here's my number. Write it down. Call me and let's talk some numbers. I'm at area code 818-720-7575. 818-720-7575 is my cell phone number. Call me if you have questions. I'd love to talk to you all because, again, there's so much that we can discuss and talk about. But over these 28 years, like I said, I've seen this all throughout the market. And it will continue to run on a cycle. It will continue to be cyclical. And there's nothing wrong with it because I've said this before time and time again. That's what keeps this economy flourishing. We were flourishing, guys, and moving quite fast, a little rapidly. So don't fret about these interest rates. They're nothing to be fretting about. Seriously. So I'm your girl, Shirley Nichols, with Mortgage Money with Shirley. Today's episode 23, you can catch on YouTube or replay it here on Facebook. And let me know your questions, comments, and concerns. And whatever you do, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Shirley Nichols. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks so much and have a great weekend.